All right, so we're going to talk about simplifying radicals. A radical is just a square root. So the way that I was taught how to simplify a radical was I looked for numbers that would go into 180. So I'm looking for factors. What times what will give us 180? So for me, my teacher would make me write down all of my factors of that particular number and keep listing on and on until I found a perfect square. So the perfect square are like numbers 4, 36, 25, so forth. So below, you're going to see that I wrote out the square root of 180 equals the square root of 36 times the square root of 5. And then I just had to take and find the square root of 36 because it's a whole number and put 6 on the outside. So this is by the book. What we're going to go through it is we're still going to keep the idea of what our perfect squares are. So this would be a good time to make sure that you have these written down for yourself so that way you can recognize them as you're moving forward. But perfect squares are what we're looking for. So the buddy plan. This is the plan that we're going to use. And all you need to do is you take the number that's given underneath the square root and you're going to go through and find the factor tree. So you're going to say, well, what times what is 180? In this case, I chose 6 and 30. I broke those down, continuing until I found all of my prime numbers, so the prime factorization. And what happens is, the rule is that if you have a buddy, if there's a pair of numbers, the buddies can leave the house, and you write the number once on the outside of the square root. If your number does not have a buddy, it has to stay in the house, so underneath the square root. So let's try it. So here I've got the square root of 8. So I'm just going to go through and say, well, 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 is a perfect square. And then 4, if I break that down, it's 2 times 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for pairs of numbers. So I have one pair of 2s. So that number goes on the outside where the other 2 stays inside. Let's try another one. So 150, well, we're going to say, well, 3 times 50. And 3 is a prime number. Then 2 times 25. And 2 is a prime number. And then 5 times 5. Next, I'm going to say, well, do I have any pairs? Yes, I have that one pair. That buddy can leave the house. What stays inside? 3 and 2. So that means I multiply those numbers that stay inside the house, and I get 6 on the outside. Alright. Let's keep moving forward. We got 52, so what times what is 52? Well, 2 and 26 would work. 2 is a prime number. Then we look at 26. Well, 2 times 13. And those are both prime numbers. Again, you're looking for your buddies. You've got 2 2s. So you're going to write a 2 on the outside, and 13 on the inside. All right. This is a good time for you to pause and try 72 by yourself, and then resume the video when you're ready. Okay, so with this one, 72, 9 times 8 is 72, so let's do that. 9 times 8. Okay, and break down both of those numbers. So we've got 9, which is 3 and 3. 4 and 2 can be multiplied to get 8, and then we have to break down that 4. So in this case, I've got one pair, 2 pairs, so 2 buddies. Those numbers get written outside the square root once. 2, the lonely 2, stays inside. And then I say 3 times 2, 6, square root of 2. All right, we're going to continue practicing this and also use it with the Pythagorean theorem. All right, next one. Well, what happens if you have 2 numbers in the square roots and we have to multiply them? The rule is you take whatever's inside and you multiply it. So in this case, square root of 45 is inside the radical. Last one. What if we have radicals with variables. So what we're going to do is we're just going to figure out what the square root of 40 is first. So 4 times 10 equals 40. Break down both the 4 and the 10. 2 times 2 is 4. And then 5 times 2 is 10. Again, looking for your buddies. Okay. So the 2 2's, that becomes 2 square root 10, because I'm taking the 2 and the 5 and multiplying it together and leaving it inside. Now here is the trick. We're looking for buddies, so when we're looking at variables, we take a look at the exponent. In this case, you've got 4. So what you need to do is you just take your exponent and divide it by 2, because for every 2 makes a buddy. So if we do 4 divided by 2, we just get x squared. Y, it goes in 2 whole times, but 1's left over. And then z's, same thing, except it's just 1 whole z, and 1 is left over. So putting this all together, it kind of looks like a lot, but I just wrote everything out that I normally just do in my head. So on the outside is the numbers that aren't underneath the square root. So the 2, the x squared, y squared, and z. So we're going to go 2 x squared, y squared times z. And then everything that's left inside is 10 y z. All right, that concludes this lesson.